This video was brought to you by Indently.io, learning Python made simple.
How's it going, everyone? In today's video, we're going to be learning about the more advanced parts of sets. And by more advanced, I mean the concepts that you probably did not learn in your beginner tutorials. If you're watching a beginner course, this is just some of the functionality that you probably didn't cover because it's not necessary, but it's still quite useful to know about. And I'm mostly talking about the operators that you can use with sets. Some Python developers are going to say that they aren't that intuitive to use, so you might as well use the methods, but I'm going to show you all of them just in case you want to use them or you see them being used someday in a different code base. They're just very good to know about. So to get started, we're going to create two sets of type integer, which will contain a few values, such as 1, 2, and 3. And if we were to duplicate that downwards, please, we can also create one that has 2, 3, and 4. What's important to note here is that we have two values that are repeating, or actually, to be fair, we have 2 and 3, which are repeating, and that we have 1 and 4, which are unique. So very briefly, I'm going to be going over the operators that you can use with sets, starting with the operators which allow you to find the difference, or the operator which allows you to find the difference. For example, if you want to find the difference between A and B, or like what's present in A and not in B, you can do that by typing in A minus B. And what you're going to get as an output is 1, because 1 is present in A, but it is not present in B. If we were to reverse that and type in B minus A, we're going to find out what's present in B, but not in A. As you can see, 4 is present in B, and it is not present in A. So that one's quite self-explanatory. But now let's get to the other ones which are a bit funky, such as A ampersand B. And what this does is find the intersection, what both of these have in common. So if we were to run this, we'll find out that both of these sets contain 2 and 3. Now moving on, we have the up arrow, or the caret. And I don't mean carrot, I mean caret. It sounds exactly the same in my head. I'm just going to spell that out on the screen so you guys understand what I'm trying to say. But what this is going to do is tell us the symmetric difference. And what that means is that we're going to get back the elements which are unique to both A and B. So if we were to run this, what we should get back is 1 and 4. Because right now we have 2 and 3 in common, but what's unique in both sets is 1 and 4. So that's what we got back. And finally, we have the pipeline, which is also known as the union operator. And what this does is perform a union. Or in other words, it combines these sets. So if we were to run this, what we should get back are both of these sets combined. As you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 because we cannot have repeating values in sets. So 4 was appended to A. But still, we were able to perform that union operation. So we got all the values returned in the form of a new set. So that covers the basic operations we can perform with sets using these operators. But now it's time we move on to how we can perform basic comparisons with sets. And in this example, I'm just going to change this to Y and Z. And what we're going to do here is change this to 1, 2, and the next one to 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, first of all, the most basic comparison you can perform is an equality check. So does Y contain all the values of Z? And the answer here is going to be no. These are not equal to each other. Y is missing 3 and 4 for this to pass. If we were to add those, it would pass perfectly fine. And order doesn't matter here. It can be 1, 3, 2, 4, and it will still pass because it contains the same values. So that part is straightforward. But next, what I'm going to be teaching you is the concept of subsets and supersets. So first of all, we're going to check whether Z is a subset of Y. And to do that, we just need to add the right angle bracket followed by the equality symbol. So we can check whether Y is greater than or equal to Z. Or in other words, we're checking that Z is a subset of Y. And when we run this, we're going to learn that this is false. Because for this to pass, we need Z to have all the values of Y. Not more than Y, but all the values exactly of Y, or less. So this would pass if we only had 1 in Z, because Y has all the values that Z has. And if we were to run this, we would get true back. even if Z contains 1 and 2, we will still get true back. So we can safely say that Z is a subset of Y. But let's go back and let's flip this arrow around. Now this is the proper way to check for a subset, because what I showed you earlier was actually a way to check for a superset. Now whether you call it a superset or a subset depends on how you phrase it. I mean, earlier we were checking whether Z was a subset of Y, or you could phrase it as Y being a superset of Z. How you phrase it is up to you. Anyway, let's check for less than or equal to, because now we're checking that Y is actually a subset of Z, which now if we were to run this would return true, because Y contains 1 and 2 which are present in Z. And if Y was to contain 1, 2, 3, and 4, it would also pass because it's either equal to the values or it contains less than the values, which are still in Z. If we were to type in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, Z would still have all the values which are present in Y, but since Y has an extra value, it's not going to pass. So that was the basic concept of checking for subsets and supersets. And next I'm going to teach you about proper subsets and proper supersets. And practically all you need to know about this is that you can create a proper subset check by using the right angle bracket and nothing else. Now for this to pass, Z still needs to contain the same elements as Y, but there's an exception here. The total length must be shorter than that of Y as well. So I mean, this will pass since Y has more elements and contains the same values as Z. So that will pass. And you can even insert 2 into Z and this will pass as well. What will not pass is 1 and 2 because this is exactly equal to the length of Y, when here we specified that it should be less than the length of Y. So let's go back to 1, 2, 3, and 4 and invert this. So now we're checking that Y is a subset of Z, which in this example is going to pass because this has more elements and contains the exact same values. Even if this was 1 and 4, it would pass. But if we did 1, 2, 3, and 4, it will not pass because it's not less than Z, even if it contains the same amount of values. If we remove 3, it will pass once again because it contains the same values and is shorter in length than Z. So yeah, this is what they call a proper subset of Z, because it contains the same elements as the ones you find in Z, but is of a shorter length. Otherwise, if we were to flip this around, we type in Z is greater than Y. This is how we would check for a proper superset, which in this example would also return true. So again, that's just phrasing. You can say that Z is a proper superset of Y, or that Y is a proper subset of Z. And before we conclude this video, I actually want to go over some of the special methods which aren't as self-explanatory as they sound, just so you get a good idea on how sets actually work. So first of all, I'm going to change our example once again to A and B. And here we will update the values to 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now what we're going to print is A is disjoint B. I mean, the documentation is going to say return true if two sets have a null intersection. And personally, when I read documentation like this, I get lost real quick because it's very technical. Now, those of you who have been programming for years or study mathematics, it's probably straightforward. But to explain what this does in simple terms, it returns true if both of these sets have nothing in common. So right now, if we were to run this, we would get true back because both of these are completely unique. Now, if we were to insert 2 into B, it would return false because they share one element. They have something in common. So that was the first method I wanted to talk about. Next, we're going to update this example by adding 3 and 5 to each one of these sets. Because something you might have noticed when using dot notation with sets is that they have some update methods. And these can be quite confusing to understand if you've never used them before. Now what this does is perform an in-place operation. It actually updates A with the difference of B. I mean, given that we actually insert B. So right now, if we were to print this, we will get A back with the difference. As you can see, if we were to subtract B from A, it would take away 3 from A, leaving us only with 1 and 2. So that's just a quick way to perform that operation in place. Otherwise, you can just easily type in A minus B, and that would work too. But you need to remember to reassign this to A if you're going to do something like that. And I guess you can do A equals minus B, or maybe it's the other way around. Please, keyboard. And you should end up with the same thing. So once again, it's a matter of preference whether you prefer to use the actual methods or the sugar syntax of the operators. Now this also works with the symmetric difference. So if we type in A symmetric difference update and pass in B, it's going to update A with the symmetric difference. So what we should get back is 1, 2, 4, and 5. Because as you can see, these are the values which are not shared between these two sets. And they also have one for the intersection update. And if we were to pass in B, what we should get back is 3, because that's what these two sets have in common. And finally, there's one more method I want to talk about, and that is the discard method. Right now, if we were to type in A discard, let's say 2 or 3, what it's going to do, if we print A, is remove 3 from this set, which is quite nice. We can also try to discard 10, which is not present in A, and it will still attempt to do so without raising an exception. If you were to type in A.remove and try to remove 10, even though it's not present, you're going to end up with an exception because it could not find that key. So if you ever want to try to remove a value without checking if that value actually exists first, just use the discard method and that can make life a lot more simple. But yeah, that's actually all I wanted to cover in today's video. Do let me know in the comment section down below whether you have any other questions or comments. I would love to hear about them. But otherwise, with all that being said, as always, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Why are you so dirty? It's not gonna look good. So we're gonna do that. Now you're too clean. They're gonna think I'm a billionaire, but I'm not. Okay. Let's see how this goes. So we got set operations today. Is the camera even clean? Let's do that. Yeah, there you go, mate. Perfect. Where are we even gonna start?